All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about one of the biggest, most exciting shifts happening in technology. It's all about how you can take that brilliant app idea that's been rattling around in your head and actually bring it to life, even if you've never written a single line of code. We're talking about the no-code revolution. I mean, let's be real, who hasn't been here? You get that flash of inspiration, that million-dollar idea, and you're so excited. But then that sinking feeling hits. I can't code. That frustration, that roadblock, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. For the longest time, this was just the way things were. For any aspiring creator or entrepreneur, your great idea would immediately run smack into a huge, intimidating wall, the coding wall. So what does that coding wall actually look like in the real world? Well, traditionally, it meant you had to hire a team of expensive developers. We're talking tens, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the timeline? Months, maybe even years, before you saw anything. It was a world of complex, confusing languages that was just off limits for most of us. But what if there was another way? A path that lets you just walk right around that wall? Well, that's exactly what the no-code movement is all about. And trust me, it's a total game changer. So what even is no-code? Think of it like building with digital Lego blocks. Instead of having to write out every single instruction from scratch, these platforms give you a visual canvas. You get all these pre-built components, buttons, forms, user logins, and you just drag, drop, and connect them to create the logic for your app. It's a huge shift. It doesn't just lower the barrier to entry, it pretty much blows the door wide open for millions of creative people. And wow, this comparison really says it all, doesn't it? On the left, you've got the old way, that dense, intimidating wall of text and symbols. On the right, a clean, intuitive, visual world. This is the heart of the revolution right here, turning app creation from this highly specialized technical skill into something anyone with a good idea can do. Now, to really get how these tools work, you need to understand a basic concept about, well, any app. This iceberg analogy is perfect for it. See, every app has two main parts. There's the front end, which is the tip of the iceberg. That's everything your users can see and touch, the buttons, the design, the layout. But the real work, the back end, is all that stuff hidden below the water. That's your database, your workflows, all the logic that actually makes the app do things. And the magic of modern no-code platforms is that they let you build both. Okay, so you're fired up, you're ready to build. What tools do you actually need? Well, it's not just one magic tool, it's more like a whole ecosystem. So let's take a really quick tour of the no-code toolkit. First up, you have the heart of your project, the app builders themselves. These are the platforms where you're going to construct the actual interface your users will interact with, whether it's on the web or on their phones. So who are the big players here? Well, for building really powerful, complex web apps, think marketplaces or social networks, Bubble is the undisputed king. It's the gold standard. Now, if you're dreaming of a sleek, native mobile app that people download from the App Store, Flutterflow is an absolute beast. And Adalo is another fantastic option, known for being super user-friendly for getting an app onto both Android and iOS devices really fast. But remember, an app isn't just a pretty face. It needs a brain to store all its information, and it needs a nervous system to connect all the different pieces and automate tasks. And that's where tools like Airtable and Zapier are essential. People call Airtable Excel on steroids, and it's true. It's a super powerful database that's as easy to use as a spreadsheet. Then you have Zapier, which is like the magic glue for the internet. It connects your app to thousands of other services, so you can create these amazing automations. For instance, when a new user signs up in your app, Zapier can automatically add them to your mailing list and send a welcome message to your team on Slack, all without you lifting a finger. That's the power of automation. Okay, so this brings us to a huge crossroads, right? You've got this well-worn path of traditional coding, and then you have this exciting new trail of no-code. And choosing which way to go is a really critical strategic decision for any founder. And this table, this really lays out the fundamental trade-off. With traditional code, your customization is literally limitless. You can build anything you can imagine, but you pay for that freedom with a ton of time, a lot of money, and a high skill requirement. No code, on the other hand, gives you incredible speed and affordability, but you are working within the limits of the platform. So the question you really have to ask yourself is, what's more important for you right now? Absolute perfect customization or incredible speed to get your idea out there? But hold on, before we all decide no code is the perfect answer to everything, it's really important to get a dose of reality. Check out this comment from a Reddit user, Agnia Bardo, who says,
No code sounds charming, but you do need to know a ton of concepts that are not at all intuitive. It's not that simple. And you know what? They have a really good point. It's simpler than code, for sure, but it's not magic.
Acknowledging that reality is super important. So let's talk about it. Let's get into some of the real-world challenges and common pitfalls you might actually run into on your no-code journey.
These are the tough questions every no-code builder has to ask. What happens if your app goes viral overnight? Can the platform handle that kind of scale? And how locked in are you to that one vendor? What if you want to leave? What happens when you hit a wall and need a feature that the platform just doesn't support? These aren't necessarily deal breakers, but you absolutely have to go in with your eyes wide open. Okay, so hearing all those challenges, you might be thinking, well, is it even worth it? But here's the thing. Maybe we shouldn't think of no-code as a complete replacement for traditional coding. Instead, let's reframe it as your most powerful, strategic first step. This quote from a guide on Reddit just hits the nail on the head. It says, "The last thing you would ever want to do is spend tens of thousands on a complete and polished web app without gauging the demand first by creating a minimum viable product." And that is the classic tragic mistake so many startups make, spending a fortune to build something that, it turns out, nobody actually wants. And that right there is where no code isn't just a tool, it's an absolute superpower. Its greatest strength is letting you build what's called a minimum viable product, or an MVP, insanely fast. An MVP is just the most basic, bare-bones version of your app that actually works. It allows you to get your idea into the hands of real users, see what they think, and prove that people want what you're building, all before you spend a ton of time and money. So let's wrap this up. We've seen that no code is this incredible way to launch your idea, to get that MVP out the door, and to see if you've got something special, all without breaking the bank. But we've also seen that it comes with real questions about long-term scale and flexibility. And that leads us to the final big question. No code can absolutely get you to the market, but can it keep you there? That's the strategic question every single no-code founder eventually has to answer.